Welcome back to PRN Test Drive. I'm James, and this week I've been driving a vehicle that needs no introduction, yet I'm going to give it a little one anyways. This is the 2026 Honda Civic Hybrid. I've got it in the hatchback version, and I've got it in the sport touring trim. So I've got all the nice bells and whistles that Honda has to offer in their new Civic Hybrids. Now, the Civic is a platform that you can't go anywhere in traffic without seeing. I see it every single time I go out for a drive, no matter where I'm going and almost no matter what area I'm in. It's no secret that Honda's best-selling platform has now gotten even better with the addition of this hybrid powertrain. I'll tell you right now, it has been incredibly efficient for me this week. It's not a vehicle I turn to give me engagement and sporty driving. It is a vehicle I turn to because I'm looking for it to be efficient while still giving me that benefit of having a full-on gas tank. And it does that job very, very well while still maintaining the same DNA that you would expect from your Honda Civics. Now, I've got a few thoughts on the Civic Hybrid and my preferences versus the hatchback and the sedan. Let me take you on the road, but first, let me give you some details. So let's talk a little bit about how this hybrid system actually works. It uses two electric motors. One acts as a generator to recharge the battery while the car is driving. And it can also connect to the wheels along with the main electric motor to provide more power or electrical drive. All of this happens seamlessly between the three motors, the Atkinson cycle gasoline engine and the two electric motors on board, to optimize both fuel efficiency and power. Now, a quick point on the transmission for the Civic Hybrid. It's not technically a CVT. It's actually a direct drive system like you find inside of an EV. Even though Honda's calling it an eCVT, which stands for Electro Continuously Variable Transmission, it's not a conventional belt-driven CVT. Instead, it's a direct drive system that alternates between the main electric motor and the gasoline engine. In terms of how the hybrid system actually transfers power, rather than using a torque converter pulley or a mechanical belt, the two-motor hybrid system relies on the interaction between the two motors to drive the wheels and generate energy. This form of power transfer provides smooth and predictable acceleration along with efficient low RPM when driving on the highway. So all that to say, in basic terms, this Honda Civic Hybrid is powered by a 2-liter hybrid 4-cylinder engine with a combined output of 200 horsepower and 232 pound-feet of torque. And it has a 1.1 kilowatt hour battery on board, but it's plenty enough to get you where you need to go, especially on the efficiency side. This thing, like I've said all video, like I will say all video, it's been very efficient, and that is the main goal of the Civic Hybrid. All right, on the road, 2026 Honda Civic Hybrid. What an easy week it's been. Whenever I drive hybrids, typically it's easy. And I mean, just the Civic hasn't lost any of like its civicness, if that makes sense. Like, it just got better because I have a hybrid system in it. So I already told you about how all that works, how technically it's not a CVT, but it is. It's one of those weird like engineering things that like it is but it isn't. It's interesting, and it feels okay. Like it doesn't drive badly because it's like a different setup or like a new setup. I do have a sport mode, although I'm never in it because I just never use it. There's just never a point. But I mean, I'll give it some beams here. Let's see what it's got. So there's definitely a good amount of pumped in audio. And it's not knocking my socks off or bringing me out of my shoes or making me laugh or anything like that. But that's completely okay because it's not really the goal of the Civic Hybrid. It's purely to be efficient. So I'm going to go into my individual mode where I have, everything in sport except for the drivetrain I have in normal. And I just kind of like how the steering feels. I like how the ride quality feels in it as well. So let's start with talking about just straight up what it is, efficiency. I've driven not that much this week, actually, right around that 300 kilometer mark, and I've been able to get 5 liters per 100 kilometers, which for me is pretty impressive because I do a lot of idling. We've got to film these things. Usually I keep the vehicle on. It's still hot out here in Montreal, so I like to keep the AC on so I can get back into the cool air so I'm not actually dying outside, and I think you could probably get this a lot lower. I do have more of a city commute as well than a highway commute, and maybe that would help you as well if you have more of a highway commute. I definitely see this thing going much, much lower, which is such great news. Like, I have not had to visit the gas station at all this week. I'm about half a tank right now, and I still have 403 kilometers left. I think I started with 7. So it's ridiculous the amount of money that I think I would save just in my daily life. I think I'd only actually have to fill this thing up like once a month, which is ridiculously good. Now, in terms of steering and handling, again, like I said at the beginning, has not lost its civicness. It's still very pointy. It's still got one of the best handlings in any, normal sedan or relatively affordable main market sedan that I've driven pretty much ever. The Civic has not lost that at all, and it's something that made the Civic stand out to me in the first place, and it still continues to do that, and I'm glad they haven't lost it. And the thing is, like, it's not going to light up the track, no, but if you want that, that's why Honda has the Type R, and if you want something that maybe doesn't have as much power but is a lot more engaging to drive, well, they also have the Honda Civic Si. It comes with a manual transmission, comes with the more sporty looks and feels, and even though it is on paper slower than the hybrid, which I think is a problem that Honda needs to address. They need to make the Si now more powerful, at least by a little bit, but it still feels faster because it's got a manual transmission, where this just doesn't. I also really appreciate the ride quality here as well. I think it's very smooth most of the time. Obviously, when you hit the big Quebec craters that are potholes and whatever, you're going to get bounced around a little bit more than I'd maybe like, but nothing more than like what would be considered normal. It's not really a complaint. Like, I'm relatively impressed with the ride quality here, and I'm always comfortable. My daughter's always comfortable in the back seat, so no huge complaints there either. Visibility has been excellent, exactly what you'd expect from a Civic. I do have a rear wiper, which is very interesting for a hatchback. Not typically something I'm used to seeing, but very, very welcome, especially here in the winter. I think it's going to bode well. Speaking of the winter, it's not all-wheel drive, but I think if you equip yourself with some really good winter tires, I've driven front-wheel drive cars for a long time before I started driving, review vehicles, and I made sure I invested heavily into my winter tires, and I always survived. So I think that would be the case here with this Civic Hybrid. So there you go. Driving overall, it's very much like any Civic you've ever experienced, although this is the best one because it just switches to battery when you want it to, or not when you want it to, but whenever it needs to, and it requires absolutely zero management. It does it all for you. Whenever you're driving pretty slowly like I am now, going 60 kilometers, I'm in full EV mode. If I need more, it will turn on the engine, and that switch is seamless, and I really enjoy that. Now let's talk about interior. Once again, has not lost any of the civicness that I'm used to. I mean, when you're greeted with the steering wheel that has physical controls, both right and left-hand sides are very nice, easy to understand, and easy to use. This interior is just plug and play, or sit and drive, like I like to say. You get in, you turn it on, and you know exactly what to do and what to expect from it. There's no hidden settings, there's no weird stuff going on here, there's no questioning. It's just straight up a Civic that is just going to be 100 times more efficient, and I really enjoy that. So steering wheel feels good. It's nicely wrapped. I do have paddle shifters, but honestly, I'm probably never going to use them, and I honestly don't think the average owner of the Civic Hybrid would ever use them either, but that's fine. Glad to see them here anyways. There is a lot of black in here. There's a lot of, it's more of like a muted interior, but I don't really mind that. I think it's fine. I'm not expecting the world from a vehicle at this price point, and if it's saving me as much money as I think it will, I don't really mind. I do like the digital gauge cluster though. I find the circles very nice. It's very informative, and it's customizable to a certain extent, which I always enjoy, so no hate there either. I'm not somebody who's, like a purist and I need analog gauges. It really doesn't matter to me. I don't mind the digital. It works completely fine, and it kind of changes the color when I switch through drive modes. Infotainment display is run by Google, so naturally I've got built-in Google Maps. Amazon Alexa is here as well as wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and you get wired for both options. Very easy, like I said again, to operate this thing. I know where everything is. There's nothing hidden. I can see like the power flow and different things like that. If you really want to get into some detail, that is available to you. But I think the average owner won't care about that screen and probably won't ever use it. But again, it is there for those that will. I really don't have a problem with the size of the screen. I think it fits to what the norm is, even going into 2026. I think not a lot of people will complain. I really don't think Civic Hybrid buyers are out for the screen. I really think it's all about that efficiency here. I do like how premium these switches feel for my HVAC control. Also, HVAC control, physical controls for all of it. I'm not fiddling around with a screen that I don't like using and I don't understand how to use. It's just straight up, hey, I know what this does. It's dual zone automatic climate control, no worries. There's no vents in the back seat, but you do get heated seats back there, so that is a nice plus. But yeah, these switches make the experience feel, a little bit more premium from your Civic, which you always like. I've got 2 USB-C ports as well as a wireless charging port. My gear selector is just a straight up one that you're used to seeing. I've got a drive mode selector, an electronic parking brake, a little bit of storage here in the center console, and I find the armrest here pretty comfortable as well. When it comes to the seats, they are heated only for the driver and the passenger, no ventilation at the sport touring level. Obviously, I would have liked to see some ventilation, but no big deal that it's not here. The main thing is heated seats and heated steering, of which those we have both. I will say that the seats are on the firmer side for some reason. I don't remember feeling it like that. Maybe I'm getting older, I don't know. But the cushion where my legs are and stuff, that's very cushiony and like quite comfortable. I just find the lumbar support pretty hard. My wife actually found it hard all around, and she didn't really like the seats in this one. But I didn't have so much of a problem, at least in the driver's seat all week. It hasn't been bothering my back or anything, but it is a little bit more on the firmer side for the top trim again, so maybe something I would have liked to see, maybe a little bit more padding or a little bit more bolstering to kind of hold you up a bit better, but that's really it. Other than that though, it's livable. I could still do a road trip in here, no problem, without having any issues, at least in the driver's seat. Obviously, I'm the only one that drives these cars, so I don't have much experience in the passenger seat with them. Now quickly we'll touch on the back seat. A decent amount of room, not behind myself. I could fit at 5'11" behind my driver profile, but not necessarily comfortable. I don't know if I'd want to sit back there for a very long period of time, but for a short period of time, I definitely could do it, no issues. It also fits my baby seat back there and all the other things that, a small family needs to do if you're looking at just getting a sedan because for whatever reason you don't want to upgrade to an SUV, which some people that is the case, then yeah, you can fit stuff. And obviously having the hatchback out where the trunk space is, oh my goodness, you've got a ton of stuff. What you might be lacking in rear space, you absolutely get made up for in the trunk space area. So yeah, overall interior wise, there's a few things that maybe Honda could change, especially in the top trim, to make it maybe either feel a little bit more sporty or just feel a little bit more premium. But other than that, it's a Civic like you know it, and I think that's the goal. I think they're keeping everything the same, just making it 10 times more efficient. And you know what? I'm here for it. I really like how efficient this thing could be. And as I'm filming, I'm dropping down to average fuel economy of 4.9. That's very good for me. That's very impressive for my commute and what I use these cars for. So next, let's take a look at the exterior for our Honda Civic Hybrid. Pretty much the same as the non-hybrid Civics, but of course you have now the added efficiency, but still, I still like the overall new generation look of the Honda Civic. I like the look of the SI. I like the look of the normal ones. Honda's done a great job with this new generation, I'll say. I like these daytime running LEDs. We don't have any 360-degree camera. We only have a backup camera, which isn't the best quality, but it is kind of all we get in the top trim for the Civic. But we do have parking sensors, so that does help when you're parking in tight spaces or you're not sure about getting too close to stuff. The new technology is there, and it does help. Front end design is nice. In the sport version, there isn't that many changes that I can notice, but I still like the aggressive look of the front end of pretty much all these Civics available. When you take a look at it from the side, you really get a good idea of why they would call this a kind of a longer hatchback. It does look very good. It is my preferred version. I prefer the Civic hatchback over the normal sedan version. I don't know why. Usually that's not the case, but when it comes to the Civic's design and the look of it, I do quite like it. This white paint color is nice, although there is some kind of there's this really nice blue color, like this baby blue or like this really light blue color that you can get in that just looks absolutely wonderful on this thing. White's not bad, but definitely going to be difficult to keep clean over time. taking a look at it from the back, that is my favorite angle on the Civic. Actually, I do like that light bar. You know, it could have done with like a spoiler in the back, but I guess they reserved that for the Holy Grail, the Type R. But still, I would have liked to see something, maybe even not hide the exhaust on the Sport Touring trim, because it is a sport trim. Maybe give me a little bit more of something in the back, but it, you know, they didn't, and I'm okay with it. I just would like to see a little bit more out of the sport trim when it comes to the rear. But I guess, again, we have the SI for that, and we also have the Type R if you really want to get crazy with it. Trunk space, of course, since this is a hatchback, is phenomenal. There is a lot of it. I've never had any issues this week. I don't expect to have any issues if I was to own this thing long term either. So overall, design-wise, I really like it. Love the new rims. I like the front end. I like the rear. There really isn't much to complain about, other than I wish that if you're going to call it a sport touring trim, I wish there was a little bit more sportiness or a little bit added bits to make it look a little bit more sporty. That's pretty much it. But overall, I do like the design, and the hatchback is my favorite. So for the final thoughts for the Honda Civic Hybrid, is that it is probably the one I would absolutely go with if I wasn't looking for a sporty Civic. Obviously, if you want the best Civic they make, you gotta go with the Type R. That thing is a little demon, and I absolutely loved my time with it. I think a year ago at this point. I loved it. But if I'm looking for a Civic that's just plain point A to point B, you have to get the hybrid, even if it costs more than just the gas, because I think, for me at least, it would save me a ton of money, and that would kind of offset the higher cost of it, which I think would be, or is the goal of Honda, is that yeah, it's going to cost a little bit more, but you're not going to have to visit the fuel pump that much more often. So that's going to make a difference in the long run. And I just like that they didn't take anything away. They've only added, you know, the fact that this thing is just going to be efficient and do what it needs to do. It's a car you see every single day, and there's absolutely no problem with that. There's absolutely no problem with enjoying it. I do think that, you know, they could do things to make the sport touring trim a little bit more, you know, worth its money in terms of, you know, the looks of it. The interior could be maybe spiced up slightly, and the exterior could maybe have like more sporty bits. But again, if you really need that, the Civic Si does exist. You just don't get the efficiency, obviously. That's one of the things. But efficiency, I think the goal of the Civic Hybrid is to be efficient, and I think it absolutely achieves that while sacrificing none of its Civic DNA. And I like that. I like it for that. That's what I was really trying to pay attention to. And another thing I was paying attention to also was, you know, the smoothness. How does it switch between gas and electric? Does it do it smoothly? Does it do it seamlessly? And it absolutely does. I never know which mode I'm in unless I'm actually looking at my gauge cluster to see, hey, am I in EV mode or is the gas engine on? That's the only way I could know. If I had my eyes closed, the only thing that would tell me would be the sound, and sometimes not even that. So overall, if you are in the market for a Civic Hybrid, you will be very, very much impressed. I think even at the lower trims, even at the less expensive trims, I think you'd still get your money's worth, just because hybrid's the way to go nowadays. Anybody that asks me that question, what car should I buy, I'm usually gonna tell them a hybrid, because I think that's the move. But that's gonna do it for my thoughts and this video on the Civic Hybrid. If you've liked what you've seen, if you want to see more different hybrids or different, you know, different powertrains or different Civics in general on the channel, make sure you let me know in the comments what you want to see me drive, and I'll do my best to get my hands on it. With that being said, make sure you subscribe. I will see you in the next car. See you the next week. Take care.